decided to hold 7 public input meetings during the month of August. And we have continued that. Last week we had input from public entities. We were very pleased to have 3 chief of police there, along with the city manager, assistant city manager, and city council members from Iowa City, North Liberty, and Solon joined us last week to give their input on the courthouse and jail needs, space needs, and programming. We've had 1 criminal justice coordinating committee meeting. We'll hold another one on Wednesday at 4:30 at the Health and Human Services building. And then next week, I just need to check, it's Monday at, is it 1:30? At 1:30 at the Health and Human Services building. We will hold a meeting between the Board of Supervisors, the county attorney, and the county sheriff to begin to figure out if we have common ground on everything that we've heard through the past couple of months. We've also been taking public comments on our website, and so with all of that, we're joined by a couple of guests today. This was designed to be a public input meeting to the Board of Supervisors, and we invited all the other entities that have law enforcement in their community and other communities. We're also joined by County Attorney Janet Linus, County Sheriff Lonnie Crowley, and in the audience, which you're welcome to join us up here, if you want to be over here, you're more comfortable listening from there, is Chief of Police for the University of Iowa, Chuck Green, and the City Manager for Coralville, Kelly Hayworth. I'm not seeing anyone else. If someone else walks in, I'll be sure to introduce them. We appreciate Kelly and Chuck coming. Our hope was that other people would hear some of the input we've been receiving. Often the input, while very valuable and very interesting, is often geared towards other entities that have law enforcement. And so we're also attempting to summarize a number of the input we've been receiving. So we appreciate the cities and for participating last week and the university for joining us today. This is a public input. We're not intending to have a debate per se. We hope that everyone will get a chance to speak and that you will limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes so that everyone can speak and before speaking again. We also hope that you'll hold your applause and cheers, if you will, because some people have felt intimidated to speak because there has been a little bit of a pep rally at some of our previous public meetings. So we hope that you'll be respectful and allow everyone to speak. And Chuck, am I understanding you wanted to talk tonight, or do you have anything you'd like to say now, or wait until later?
Oh, I can do it later.
Okay. So basically the ground rules are please state your name, anything else you'd like us to know about you, in about 3 to 5 minutes on what you think should happen with the courthouse and jail and other programs affecting law enforcement in Johnson County. And we would love to hear from you, and the first person that speaks, the floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Daniel Campbell, and this is just a short account of an injustice that I suffered, my experience with the Johnson County Jail, and a suggestion, a thought to leave you with concerning the Johnson County Justice Center. Like I said, my name is Daniel Campbell. I live in North Liberty here in Johnson County. I also live in total fear. I am afraid to go out at night. I am afraid to leave my home, and that is because I am afraid of the very people who are sworn to protect me. In July of this year, I was arrested out of my own garage for public intoxication after I was interrogated by 3 North Liberty police officers, including the arresting officer, Juan Santiago, who has a case against him right now in Iowa District Court by a man named Marcus Blazek. Juan Santiago and Officer Danoff entered Blazek's home armed with loaded 40-Glock semi-automatic handguns in search of a certain parolee. Instead, they found a frightened young man, also a tenant of the home, Marcus Blazek, and viciously tackled him, cuffed him, and detained him indefinitely, inflicting a dislocated shoulder and a total tear of Marcus Blazek's rotator cuff. Finally, he was uncuffed, and Officer Juan Santiago and Officer Dan Roth fled the scene of the attack, leaving Blazek with no medical attention whatsoever. Yes, I was arrested out of the privacy of my own garage by the same police officer, Juan Santiago. I was never read my rights, though I was met with a barrage of questions after I was in custody. I spent the night on a urine-soaked mat in the Johnson County Jail. The next morning, I was extremely lucky to have a family member pay $300 to the Johnson County Clerk of Courts to bond me out after I had pled not guilty. I motioned for jury trial. It took over 3 weeks to obtain a copy of the discovered police report, including all video and audio recordings. Safe to assume that this report was never written until well after it was requested. I was ordered to appear at pre-jury trial conference in late August. While seeking help from the Johnson County Public Defender's Office, I was alerted that I would be arrested if the judge saw that I had used a public attorney. Whether that is true or not, I decided to act as my own attorney. I explained to the prosecuting attorney at the pre-jury trial conference that I had read Iowa Code 123.46, public intoxication, and that I had thoroughly examined all of the evidence brought against me by the state, and that I could find nowhere in any of the evidence, even the mere suggestion that I could be in violation of any one part of this clearly written code. She began to defend the charge against me and explained to me what intoxication means. It became shockingly clear to me that she had never even read the report. As she began to read the report for the first time, the look on her face was priceless. Obviously, less than 5 minutes later, the charge was dismissed. Oh, and what I had already found in the audio recordings, all three officers debating what other charges to bring against me, what charges would stick, what charges would, quote-unquote, look better to the judge. And I paraphrase, don't worry, he won't fight it anyway. I am shocked, scared, and living in fear now. I am actively looking for a new home outside of Johnson County. It is my belief that I was the victim of an armed home invasion and kidnapping by thug police officers who carry loaded weapons and are known to use them on unarmed innocent civilians. When I heard that there would be a public forum with possibly the local news in attendance, I jumped at this chance to get this off my chest and hopefully veil myself in some sort of protection, as this will now be publicly aware. As far as this Justice Center thing goes, and dealing with overcrowding at the Johnson County Jail, if I did not have a family member who was willing to bond me out, I would have sat in jail for over a month and a half while never being able to build my defense, and for no reason at all. I wonder how many other people, without the money to be bonded out and begin building their own defenses, are still sitting in Johnson County Jail right now. Or is that the point? Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Looks like Charlie Easton is next. Sorry, Charlie, you can introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Charlie Easton. Happy to we've had this chance to address the supervisors and other members of the local official who manage the jail
mention that we had a presentation from Coalition for Racial Justice. Charlie, two people attended, and Dorothy Woodson and Charlie, and gave us a presentation on their research and document. And also this past week on Thursday, we received comments from the Chief Judge of the 6th Judicial District, Patrick Grady, and we were pleased to talk to him. Just for the record, Ron Sullivan talked to the Chief Judge about some judicial judges that set bond when maybe bond isn't necessarily a cash bond, not necessarily necessary. So that kind of summarizes a couple of more things we've been up to lately. Anyone else would like to speak? The microphone is yours.
I sign in here, is that what
It's for our minutes, so if you would, that would be great.
What?
It's for our minutes, so if you would, that would be great. And if you would say that all loud, we're also being tape recorded for our website.
My name is Joe Johnston. I've practiced law in Johnson County for 45 years. I think that I probably have spent more time in this courthouse than any other living human being, except maybe people who work here in the building. But I've tried an awful lot of cases here. It's an ugly old building, but I love it. I have a family lawyer, as many of you know. My wife was a former district court judge here in California. I only mention that because I want to tell you that she has instructed me that I do not speak for her, and that she probably doesn't even agree with me, which she normally doesn't. My son is a lawyer who practiced in Johnson County for a while. He's now a public defender in Lynn County. He's tried cases here in Johnson County. My daughter is a administrative law judge in Des Moines. So the law is my life. I think when I spoke here before, I'll be a little more careful because I was misquoted in the news, trying to make a joke that was made to sound like I was being serious. But I think the linking of the two is what is causing it to be defeated. I hardly know anyone who voted against the Justice Center last time who would not have voted for the courthouse had that been their choice. They were voting against the jail. Most of the arguments we hear are against the jail. I made comments the last time, and I'll make them again. The statistics I would like to see is how many people we house in the jail who are what I call volunteers. In other words, we have a lot of mandatory sentences for OWIs and things like that. The legislature determines that people ought to be in jail for a certain amount of time if they commit one of these violations. They don't tell us where they have to be housed. And for those people that show up on a weekend to serve their 2 days in jail or their 7 days in jail, you could take them out to the parking lot with a piece of chalk, draw a circle around them and say, stay here until your time is up, and they do it. We don't need to put them behind 2 iron doors in a maximum security jail. Why can we not even consider the possibility of a minimum security jail for those type of people and reserve the maximum security jail for those people who are a danger? We simply don't need to lock up most people, or many people, who are in jail, who go to jail on these mandatory charges in a secured facility. They show up voluntarily. They're not going to run away. Anyway, that's been my mantra all along. I would like to see the courthouse improved, or even if you have to replace it. I mean, it's an ugly old building, but I love it. But maybe it serves its time. Maybe you have to tear it down and move a new courthouse. But unlink them. Decide what you want to do. Let us
could have been transferred to another jail that would have made it harder for you to get contact with your lawyer and with your family because this one has so little space. A problem I have when you're typing meetings, you tend to hear the same assertions over and over again that you then edit out because people have already stated their opinion once. So I think a good way to structure these meetings would perhaps you guys always have somebody from law enforcement who comes and reads off statistics about how many people were in jail that day, what crimes they were put in there for, and whether or not they were awaiting trial. I think starting out each one of those input sessions with those statistics would be a reasonable start, and the conversation is starting over now. And Mr. Kravik, or Sheriff Kravik, I have a friend who works for the Daily Iowan, and he called in to ask for some questions about the courthouse issue. He didn't know much about it at all. And you told him to do his research first before he called back again. And I would hope there would be somebody you could give the phone to explain it better, because not many people know about this. I didn't know about any of it before I started working in Johnson County. So, and I know I'm a student, I know I'm taxed differently, so money is not the same issue. But, okay, that's what I have to say. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sarah.
Hello, my name is Brian Taylor, currently jail deputy, Johnson County. She was talking about statistics. I currently ran some stats for October 4th. Right now, that's a couple days ago, there's 130 total inmates. 32 were awaiting court, 15 were sentenced, 13 were over arrest. I know Chuck Green's here. I know he gets a lot of grief for how much space the University of Iowa takes up. Right now, out of those 102 people, they only have 3 people in trial detention. Those are all aggravated or felony charges. I just want to go through here. I don't want to breathe. It's going to take a long time. The offense classes of who's in jail right now for the 102 pretrial inmates, there's 77 felonies. There's 19 misdemeanors. 12 of those are aggravated. So aggravated and felony above, that's 87% of our pretrial population. Types of offense, right now there's 7 people in jail for murder or charges that resulted in death. 10 sex abuse or stalking, 17 theft. 7 drug offenses only. Those are all non-marijuana, it's all meth, heroin, manufacturing, dealing. 34 robbery and burglary charges. 10 weapons offenses. 16 domestic assault or no contact or harassment charges, and 17 probation or parole violations. Now, out of the 102 inmates that have been arrested, 81 have been arrested more than once. 121 have never been arrested. Out of those 81 people, the average number of times they've been arrested is 5.28 times. So it's basically the same people over and over and over again. That's where our problem lies. One thing I do want to point out is that Blackhawk County has a population of 131,820. That's roughly 5,000 less than us, give or take. Right now, they have a 272-bed jail. It's overflowing. They sometimes ship out of county, just like we do. They average 250 inmates, which is, right now they have 276. That's compared to our 130. That's 112% difference. What are they doing that we are not? I think, the gentleman before me mentioned the average population has gone down. I see that as our jail terms are working, not that we have people in jail who just shouldn't be there. I want to point out there are 0 inmates being held on marijuana charges only. There are 0 inmates who are there for failure to pay fines. There are 0 inmates being held on simple misdemeanors only. There are 0 college kids in pretrial or sentence. The average age is 31.8 years old. Like I said, the University of Iowa has only 3 of 102, or 2.9% of our pretrial population. And every drug offense right now is for meth, crack, heroin, cocaine. I did do some numbers for 2013. Right now, our average is 139.1 for our daily population that includes overnight. So that's down from 144.7. That's down by 5 more. So we're doing what we can to get these people out of jail. There comes a point in time, like I mentioned, the severity of the charges, we're getting to a point where you can't let these people out, okay? Now, I know people are saying that they're being held just because they can't afford to pay bond. Now, when people get arrested, they don't get credit checks on them. You get called, most of the arrests are due to the officer being dispatched to the scene. And then further investigation would warrant arrest. Now, the county attorney rarely opposes bond reductions at bond reduction hearings. And through our jail attorneys, we've gotten the jail population down pretty much as far as it will go. So, I mean, I think we do need to show some foresight and build a facility that's going to last 25 years at least. John Neff did a study here, and he projected growth based on our yearly projection of inmates, as well as population growth. And he came up with numbers of 164 and 194 for bed space for the years 2020 and 2030. And he also came up with numbers 215 and 283 for 2020 and 2030. Now, the average of those two numbers, of those four numbers, are 190 and 238, which is what our proposal would have been, failed. I think it would be wrong to build a facility that just meets, our current need, and then we're passing this on to, future supervisors, taxpayers. So I think we definitely need to think 25 years down the road. That's pretty much all I have to say is that I just want to definitely get through the fact that the jail's not full of just low-level charges. Like I said, you really try to get rid of all those charges. I'm sure county attorney can reinforce that fact that we do whatever it takes to get our low-level charges out. And the people that are being held right now, it's due to their severity of the crime and their criminal history. So that's all I have to say.
Anybody else wishing to speak?
My name's Sean Meager, former 30 resident of Johnson County. With the exception of council, and probably miscellaneous, I've spent more time in the courthouse than probably over the days here as well. I've been acquitted in this room before. The notion that the justice system in this county is working very hard to limit its scope of not holding people accountable for anything other than something very serious is completely ignorant. The fact is that there's a lot of people that try to equate felony with aggravated misdemeanor, but the fact that aggravated misdemeanor has the name misdemeanor in its charge suggests that no, it is not as serious as a felony. We have several people that are always incarcerated in the jail that are not held due to being charged with a simple misdemeanor, but with a serious misdemeanor or an aggravated misdemeanor. And these are the people that can be let go. It makes no sense in the world to suggest that a person needs to be held based on their prior it's hard for me to understand why an individual can then be held with that standard when it won't apply when you enter this building. The notion that they don't do, that the pre-sentence investigators or the people that come over to assess whether or not a person needs to be held with bond, the fact that they're not doing credit checks, that's kind of silly. One only needs to kind of look at maybe their past criminal history, the neighborhood they live in, whether or not they're in a car, whether or not they're currently employed, and that'll say a lot whether or not someone is actually financially able to post a bond for themselves. And like this gentleman here, had he not had someone to bond him out on a simple misdemeanor, I mean, we talk about there was nobody in on a simple misdemeanor, but he would have remained in jail had he been not bonded out. And the reason why that is, I mean, I know this courthouse very well and how it works when somebody's arrested for public intox. You're transported from the jail after spending the evening in jail, and you're banned over, or how many ever they do it now. I think I am in jail in over a decade now. But they'll bring you over with several other people, and the deputies from the jail will encourage individuals to plead guilty to simple misdemeanor offenses. They will they will flat out encourage you before you see the judge. Plead guilty, otherwise they'll hold you. That is absolutely outrageous. I've heard it every time I've been in this building. It's totally true, and it happens every single day. The notion that someone needs to plead guilty, even if they're innocent, in order just to be released on a simple misdemeanor, is crazy. And then the person could be held due to the backlog of the court for weeks or months beyond their actual sentence that they may receive if they are convicted with the maximum sentence. I've been through the system ever since I was very young. And I've seen a lot of hell. My dad was a police officer in Porterville for almost 30 years. I've seen every side of this justice system there is imaginable. From my end, being incarcerated and going through the system and doing all that. From his side, being a law enforcement officer and arresting people or doing his job. And there is a real disconnect when it comes from the police officer level, in many cases, to the county attorney, to the court. When an officer can say, oh, well, I'll arrest him, they'll figure it out in the courts. But then the court is so dysfunctional that just the mere arrest, the person that the fact that they've been arrested can be a complete detriment to their lives and their job and everything else that they can go through. And they don't even have to be convicted. And then for court officers and jail personnel to tell people to plead guilty just so they can get through the system quicker, it seems it's pretty biased. And as far as the reach of this court outside of the county, it happens as well. I've had an assistant county attorney fly 2,000 miles to Reno, Nevada to testify against me in a child custody case in 2005. That is, I couldn't believe it. I was flabbergasted. And not only that same assistant county attorney perjured herself at that hearing. And she gave Miss Martinez as the person who gave her the information. And this is information that has been found to have been false by this court. Transcripts from this court that this stuff wasn't true. And it was still said. and it was used against me, and I lost custody of my son. This system impacts people. It destroys their lives. They'll see anybody they arrest as, what do I care? They shouldn't have done the crime. They shouldn't have done this. There's a lot of excuses given as to why they get to treat somebody like dirt. I have been through this court system, and the times that I decided to take things to trial, those happen to be the times that I said, you know what, I ain't do it, and I'm not going to put up with it anymore. And every single time I've ever taken anything to trial in this county, I've either been acquitted or had a hung jury. That says a lot. The conviction rate for a prosecuting attorney is above 90%. And the fact that I can come in here a handful of times, 3 or 4 times, and been found not guilty, that says something. I just ask, I agree that this courthouse and the jail can be separated and everybody can agree to give the system their courthouse. Because people need to get through civil cases and through criminal cases, so you can clear out the jail. But to add in everything such as a jail and now maybe even city law enforcement, it's just forcing voters to be put in the position to say, well, you don't care about safety of the community. That's not true. They care very much about the safety of the community. They don't want people to be torn apart by the very people that are supposed to protect them. I just ask that they separate it out and let the people make the decision based on the merits of